you're going to really love multiplicity because it's a great shortcut in determining if a sign change occurs at a root. Recall that a root is an x value that tells you where a function actually touches the x-axis. Now, multiplicity determines if a function crosses the x-axis, that means sign change. If it only touches the x-axis, then there's no sign change. Here's our first example. Notice it's already factored, and the roots are 0, 2, and -3. We're told that multiplicity is odd for factor x because the exponent on x is 1, and 1 is an odd number. Multiplicity is even for the factor x minus 2 because the exponent on x minus 2 is an even number. Multiplicity is odd for factor x plus 3 because the exponent on the factor is an odd number. Okay, so what does it all mean? Even multiplicity says no sign change at the root. Odd multiplicity means that there is a sign change. Root 0 has a sign change, 2 has no sign change, and 3 has a sign change. Let's take a look at the graph. We're going to select the very first graph. That's example 1 and graph it. Notice that at -3, just as we predicted, there is a sign change. The graph goes from positive to negative. And at 0, there's another sign change. The graph goes from negative to positive. However, at 2, you can see that there is no sign change. The graph remains positive, although it touches the x-axis at x equals 2. Pause your video, write down the steps. Okay, example 2. We've got x squared plus 7x plus 12. We need to factor this and find undefined points. We didn't mention this before, but at undefined points on the x-axis are places where the graph can change signs. In this case, there are no points that are undefined. 2 sign changes, one at -3 and also another one at -4. Both factors have exponents that are odd. Here's the graph. Hard to see, so we're going to zoom in here a little bit. And notice how we can change the center of our zoom in before we hit the enter button. Now we hit enter and it zooms in. Kind of hard to see, but you can see that there is definitely a sign change there. That zoom in was not particularly helpful. Sometimes you make mistakes like that, but you can always hit zoom 6 and go back to a standard viewing window. Okay, we're going to move on to the next example. First, we've got to solve for 0 on one side of the equal sign. A little factoring involved there, and finally we get the roots there at the very end, 0, 1/2, and -1/3. Now, multiplicity tells us even for x and odd for 2x minus 1 and 3x plus 1. So no sign change at 0. There's going to be a sign change at 1/2 and -1/3. Notice how I'm turning on and off the graphs. You can do that getting over the equal sign and hitting enter. Here I'm going to manually change the viewing window. And now you can see where the sign changes occur and where it doesn't.